Thank you also to CCG for this invitation. I heard the previous speakers. I also received this message from you on the sidelines asking if I have any solutions, if I can offer any solutions. Um, well, it's a wicked problem, and I don't think that there are any real solutions in terms of a package which can be presented to the world, or something that can basically ameliorate the situation unfolding on the ground in Afghanistan. But I think this is a situation that needs to be tackled from issue to issue. Uh, I would actually want to take the conversation uh, to move beyond what has happened and how Afghanistan, the region, and the world have got to this point. I think there's been a lot of discussion on that, a lot of pages and even books and analyses have been written, are being written. The fact is that the Taliban are in power, they own the ground, and they have to meet certain standards in order for the world to move towards recognizing and granting them legitimacy. We saw, unfortunately, some sentiment in Pakistan after the fall of Kabul, which was euphoric. I've always thought that that was misplaced. And in the next few minutes, I'd like to sort of, inform the colleagues here that the situation for Pakistan has not really changed much in terms of the threats that emanated from Afghanistan and would continue to emanate from Pakistan. That said, Pakistan remains committed to diplomatic efforts to address the situation there, essentially to get a broad regional consensus on a coordinated approach. There have been multiple initiatives, conferences, meets, and we know that Pakistan has been taking the lead in most of them. And in doing so, it is dealing with other state actors that have their own interests and preferences, which may or may not be entirely in sync with Pakistan's, or for that matter, even Afghanistan's. Some regional countries have talked about broad-based and inclusive government. Some have stressed the need to have a government of national reconciliation. Islamabad has constantly and consistently talked about a broad-based inclusive government. As a matter of fact, we can go back to the Bonn process. Pakistan, even at that time, had insisted that the Bonn process should include all the stakeholders, including constituencies that are represented by the Taliban. That did not happen. We also know that in 2004, it's a matter of record that Lakhdar Brahimi, in an interview, talked about the fact that not being able to pull those constituencies into that process was what he called the original sin. So anyway, at the same time, Pakistan has stressed the need to take a realistic approach in view of the changed reality in Afghanistan. And the recent OIC meet was also directed towards that end. Now, Pakistan has three immediate concerns. It needs to continue to monitor and work with the Taliban interim government, assist Afghanistan as much as Pakistan can do, which Pakistan is doing. And I'm referring to Afghanistan's humanitarian needs. To this end, Pakistan has also called upon the world community to share that burden. The previous speakers have also talked about a multilateral approach to that end. Of course, it's not simply because of altruism, because connected to that, there's a problem of refugees. We already have millions of them in Pakistan, and they need to go back. And we don't want the situation to turn so dire that there is more influx of refugees in Pakistan, which of course is not just an issue of economic burden, but also becomes a hard security problem. And third, Pakistan continues to nudge the Taliban leadership to reach out to other stakeholders, i.e. political and ethnic groups. This is essentially about working out a political arrangement that reflects the diversity of Afghanistan. At the time of announcement about formation of an interim political setup in Kabul, which was last September, Pakistan had officially stated that such a setup must address the requirement of a governance structure to meet the urgent needs of the people of Afghanistan. Now, that statement meant A, that Pakistan wants to stay connected with what's on the ground because that's the only setup in and through which it can be useful. And B, expects that the interim arrangement will address the requirement of a governance structure that reflects the needs of the people of Afghanistan. Much of what Pakistan wants has not happened. It's not clear how much of what Pakistan wants, as also other states in the region beyond, could or will happen. But Pakistan has to grapple with what the US and its coalition have left behind, and also the history between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So while the US and its coalition partners were still in Afghanistan, Pakistan's main concerns were the continuing resistance by the Afghans to accepting the border. They continue to refer to it as the Durand Line. Pakistan was also concerned about India's activities in collusion with the Afghan National Directorate of Security to wage a covert war against Pakistan, especially by supporting Baloch terrorist groups. Has that changed? Unfortunately, not really. The Durand Line problem persists, as has been evident from events in the past few days with reference to fencing on the border. Taliban fighters took away rolls of concertina wire and also threatened Pakistani soldiers. And this is on video. In one incident earlier, Taliban fighters removed the Pakistan flag from trucks that were carrying humanitarian aid for Afghanistan. In the recent incident, the fencing incident that I talked about, it seems that Pakistan has tried to defuse the situation by agreeing to a consensual approach to fencing. Personally, I consider that to be a mistake with the potential of becoming a big mistake. It is ironic that Afghan irredentism, which has been a major cause of troubles between Pakistan and Afghanistan, continues. A couple of months before the fall of Kabul, Ashraf Ghani, who abdicated his office and slipped into the night, inaugurated an airport in Khost. Speaking on that occasion, he actually called upon the Taliban. This was really ironic. And actually, at that time, I was doing my program at Indus News, and I actually had a segment on what he said, that if they were to come to power, they should not recognize the border with Pakistan. So this irredentism, this concern, which has always, in a major way, defined Afghanistan-Pakistan relations, is still there. Taliban have also reached out to India and got Pakistan to agree to allow transportation of Indian wheat overland in Afghan trucks. So I was speaking to one official who said to me, this looks like a one-off. So I said to that official, if he really thinks that this is going to be a one-off, he should go back to the Garden of Eden when the serpent wasn't there. We keep talking about how in many ways Afghanistan and Afghan youth have changed since the US invasion. That's, of course, an important observation. That also is the kind of human resource, frankly, that might ultimately become the foundation of modern Afghanistan. But we also forget that so have the Taliban. So while ideologically they remain where they are, or they were, the expression of that ideology has become more nuanced. They also realize that they have to utilize contacts with other states to get what they need. But whether they would play ball all the way is moot. And finally, Pakistan also faces a threat from the TTP and ISK, terrorist groups that are based in Afghanistan. So far, the Taliban have not moved against the TTP. Instead, they have been asking Pakistan to negotiate with them. Pakistan has tried that approach, and it hasn't worked, and it's unlikely to work. I have my own view on how to deal with this issue. And as a matter of fact, my friend Musharraf Zaidi, who's also on the panel here, he and I had this public discussion on how to deal with this problem. But it's the current Pakistani approach, I don't think is going to work. I also believe that this problem should be and will become a litmus test of how Pakistan deals with the Taliban. So, we can have further discussion as we go into with the discussions coming in, and perhaps we can explore some of these ideas further. But final word that, as I said earlier, uh, not much has changed in Afghanistan in terms of the threats that were there. But what is further added now is a regime uh, that has been, and can be regressive in its approaches to multiple issues. So threats plus a regressive attitude is likely to make it a toxic mix. Thank you.